7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Over-Analyze the Movies. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to my channel. This is my name's Rob Christensen, and I'm the co-host of Jim and Rob Over-Analyze Movies, the movie podcast, the video podcast for people who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them. And tonight we've got a ripper for you, a real head scratcher, Christopher Nolan's latest, Tenet. And we're going to be taking a look at that. Going to run you through. We're trying to apply just a tiny bit of structure here, so I've got a bit of an agenda which I'll go through. Ooh, time travel and airplanes and stuff. All right, everybody. Anyway, there's a trailer. We got kind of set our stage just to give you an idea. Like I said, we're going to try and go through a bit of an agenda this time, but without trying to wreck the flow either. But just wanted to give you a heads up. We're hoping to kind of go, start with, as we always do, Jim and I's first thoughts, get the chat going, and then we're going to try and break it into, what were the highlights? What about the theme? Maybe get a little arty. Talk about the production values, production design, the scoring, the soundtrack, and that. Can't talk about a movie if we don't talk about performances. Of course, auteur talk, or specifically, what is Christopher Nolan's deal anyway? And then, of course, and in no particular order, and then, of course, we'll wrap it up after, of course, we shamelessly plug our next show, the podcast and everything, and tell you if we think it's worth your time. All right, with that out of the way, and already we got a lot of people in the chat, I think it's time to introduce my co-host with the most, Mr. Jim Chaboyko.
We live in a twilight world.
What's that, Midge?
We live in a twilight world. It's a test.
I get it. Much like your Midge thing on your name there.
There are no friends at dusk. That's how you're supposed to answer it.
Yeah, no, I did that. I failed that test. You should be shooting me right now.
I'm out of here.
Or will something happen to me yesterday?
Yes.
All right, Jim, before we get started, looks like we got a lot of people watching. We got a number of people in the chat. Why don't we say hello to them?
Certainly.
Okay, first of all, we've got Sean from Lost in the Reel. All right, Sean, great to see you here. Happy Sunday. Oh, the Upside Down made it. Good to see you up and about.
Yay.
Oh, Vlad 65, and this is a perfect moment. Another tell-a-lot trailer. And yet it still doesn't explain the movie. Everyone, just so you know, Vlad did a great kind of counter to my to my general thrust about The Midnight Sky, and gave us a killer review, like kind of his thoughts on that film and how he felt about it. We actually pinned it as a comment in the Midnight Sky, under the Midnight Sky video. So I'll make sure that link is in the description and somewhere, yes, up here in a card. But yeah, go check that out. Great thoughts, and really great to see Vlad bring that to the table. Another great sporter. Oh, guess who else is here? Jelly Duck. Good to see you, man. All right. Okay. And then we've got Katie Fowler in the house. Ooh. Not only a time bender, but a mind bender, she says. It's like the dean in Community.
Oh, yeah.
Only it's a time desk or whatever.
A time
Whatever
hoodie.
thank you, a
But
time
not
buddy.
this word, time hoodie.
It was only. Alrighty, great to see you, Katie. One half of the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got our man in Chennai, Shashank,
Yes.
who would definitely be a more solid comrade than perhaps one of the other players in this film. All right. Okay. Richard L., the other half of the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars. Good to see you, Richard. Thanks for making it out. All right. We got the, and there we go. We're already getting a little love. Shashank, of course, great sporter. Always staying up to on top of those comments, especially in the films he enjoys or dislikes, and giving some love to Vlad, which is just awesome. All right, everybody. I think that about covers. Done all our welcomes, Jim. I think. Let me bring a little music into the situation. Why don't you give us your first thoughts, man?
Well, to borrow a line, this movie has everything. It's got wind farms. It's got every boat ever made. It's got Batman's dad, butler Alfred. It's got Fleur, what's her name, Delacourt, bungee jumping. It's got downtown Estonia. Anyway, there's so much. Sorry, downtown Tallinn. Yeah, it's a pretty quickly moving film. I was expecting it. From what I'd heard, that it was sort of complicated and a little bit, just sort of a little bit. What's the word? Epic. I was sort of expecting it to slow down a little bit in the middle. It never really did. I thought it moved well.
Oh.
It didn't sound all that smart at times. Some of the lines were real clunkers. I think the screenplay was the weakest part of it. But
like you mean the dialogue,
the dialogue, yeah. It almost reminded me of the Harrison Ford line. You can write this stuff, but you sure can't say it. I thought the score was great, by the way, by Ludwig Göransson, who also does The Mandalorian, that I've spouted off about positively as well. I just love what that guy does, and it kept going. It kept moving, rather, fairly kinetic.
Mm-hmm.
Backwards fighting, all kinds of stuff. As a film, probably would be a better movie theater movie, I think, rather than a quiet contemplative film. But this is a real movie as spectacle, and I bought into it. Like, I was along for the ride, had fun with it. I watched it with my son last night, and we sort of found it. He found a couple things frustrating at times, but overall, I quite enjoyed it. I would have to say.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You know what, Jim? I agree with you. I watched this. This is the second time I watched it. It definitely rewards a second viewing.
Mm-hmm. So
I'd recommend to anyone take another look at it. But yeah, from some of the reviews and criticisms, and yeah, Christopher Nolan, I think, to use to borrow a phrase that Shashank has used, I find him at times to be a self-indulgent director. And when I heard, it's like literally the protagonist speak, I am the protagonist. It's like, okay, sure, Christopher. But yeah, I was pleasantly I was pleasantly surprised. I one of the things I think I did that helped me, and I don't know if you did, I was not going to get too worried about puzzle solving. And I was thinking, you know what? Let's just see where this takes me. Pay attention, like be in the movie, be present to the movie, but watch it, enjoy it, and see where it takes me. And I'm really glad I did, because I think I saw stuff that if you're too busy hunting, trying to solve puzzles, you would miss, that makes this, I actually think, and I almost forgot our ideological ingredients list.
Yes,
but I think this makes it actually a bit more radical a film than it initially presents. And speaking of which, I'm going to run down those quick. Does it pass the Bechdel test? Good Lord, no. Would it earn a reframe stamp? No, it would not. Does it have class conscious? Could you call this a class conscious film? Good Lord, no. And without consciousness, you can't have analysis. So there you go. That said, I think there's radical components that we will get to later in the agenda that really kind of makes this movie almost become, I don't know about you, Jim, my favorite Christopher Nolan film is Inception. But I think this could become number 2, actually, and even a close number 2. Oh, well, so those are my first thoughts. Everybody in the chat, love to hear what you're, like, just that initial hot take. Feel free to chime in, and we'll bring them up on the screen. In the meantime, Jim, what were some of your highlights of this film?
I have to say, and maybe this fit into the me liking it as much as I did. I haven't really seen, aside from sort of Netflix or Amazon Prime movies, I haven't really seen too much that's been released in 2020. Like it's aside from say Palm Springs, it's it's the latest movie that I've seen that's been released, and so I think there's a little bit of joy in that, even subliminally. It's something new and fresh, and so a new movie to have a new impression of. I think, even
though we're not seeing it in the theater, or like I know I didn't. I saw it at home. I turned the lights down, but I felt like I was seeing a theater movie.
Yes, okay. And if I have a chance to at some point in the future, if they're re-releasing it to the theaters, I've seen a lot of my favorite movies when they have retrospectives like Jaws and Rear Window and things like that on the big screen, and it's sort of like a little point of pride. But it would be definitely awesome to see in the theater. Some of the shots,
especially with that big sound experience,
and Ludwig was added again with the sort of discordant or just the heavy percussion and sort of just blasting out your eardrums or attempting to. I quite like that, because it's a cacophonic movie, right? In the first place, it's a big, noisy, crashy, messy, chaotic movie, and that was sort of the perfect score.
Well, I think part of that is because that discordance, that dissonance, early, like in the very first scene, I didn't catch it on the first watch, but I caught it on the second. Not only, now some of it's built right in, just the way certain actions are happening, but what I noticed was all the beats or all the music hits, the cues, they're hidden, but they're like that that kind of reverse thing that's really easy to confuse. And I think that was almost right from the first scene, setting us up for when there's going to be that kind of, what do they call it? What's the gag? The time travel gag they use here? It's inverted. That's it. Yeah. That's their, I'm sorry, Expelliarmus, But and you saw that, like, there was one of my highlights, actually.
Yeah.
That and the fact, I don't know about you, Jim, but there's at times almost like a Michael Mann feel. And then also some of that soundtrack reminded me of Tron Legacy. You know, that kind of heavy synthesizer, but moody and cool.
Yeah.
You know, which seemed to be like a whole part of the color scheme in a way, was cool when possible.
Yeah. And then, you know, you compare it to Goranson's work on the Mandalorian, and it's sort of like uses desert. I don't want to get too off track here, but it uses that kind of organic desert sound. Like, you know, the sound cue for the Mandalorian himself is not unlike Wonder Woman's. It's a little bit of a reedy, like a sort of a wind reed sound that, you know, that call. I'm not going to do it, but that, and then it sort of launches into something, and then it eventually, if you watch the whole credits, it becomes, it enters more John Williams territory. In this case, like, it's not like that at all. It doesn't feel symphonic.
No,
it
you're
doesn't
right.
Feel, you know, it feels like an electronic score, as opposed to something using acoustics.
And I think reversed score. Like, I mean, they inverted some of the nonsense. Why don't we take a moment? We'll check the let's check in with the chat for a bit. Yeah. One of the things Shashank regrets that he can't watch in IMAX. I you know what? I think Jim's right. I think we're going to see this re-released. You know, especially once things get back to post-COVID normal. So you may get that regret. You may be able to deal with that regret, Shashank. Now, here's a question from Ahmed in Arman in Kuwait. Aren't they using multi-layered effects? Not sure how you mean, Ahmed. If you could comment on that. Like, are you talking about like a multi-layered sound effects? Yes, absolutely. I think you'd agree with me, Jim. Like, it's part of that cacophony. Yeah. You know, it's like a wall, not of sound, but a wall of sounds. You know, yeah. Katie Fowler comments, it does pass the baby test. Yes, it does. Here, let's totally just poor Jim. Focus.
No. Okay. Even at the end, there's a part where they're like not in front of the kid, so even they're conscious of Katie Fowler's, you know, not liking that kind of challenge.
One of the theme setting, I will argue, the theme setting moments is the scene when Pattinson and Washington have their moment in the bar, and he's like, "Would you take a kid hostage?" No. You know, what about a woman? If I had to, you know. All right, we've got another comment from the Upside Dan. Inception is my favorite Nolan film and one of my favorite films in general. I like Tenet a lot. Definitely want to give it a second viewing soon. Yes. All right. Now, Sean here. Lost in the Reel. I think during both viewings I was spending so much time trying to put together the puzzle pieces that I wasn't all there for the ride itself. Yeah, you know, Sean, you need to watch it again and just roll with it. Just every time you find yourself getting trapped in it, what the heck? Just say Expelliarmus. Zap that overthinking it and be in the narrative. I think it'll give you, because you'll see other things in the film. Would you agree with me on that, Jim?
Oh yeah, I think it goes with with a lot of films, but this one, I'm sure we're talking about it being re-released. Imagine a director's cut.
Well, I suspect Nolan is one of those guys who's like, no, I've given you enough.
Yeah.
What do you need any more?
But he is pretty.
There will be no filler.
Yeah.
No filler, all killer.
He can get kind of indulgent at some point, but
I think that restraint is part of his indulgence. It's like, why should I make the dialogue any clearer?
Yeah. I think
they should be listening more.
Something for boats. I wanted this movie to be called Lots of Boats.
Lots of sexy AF boats.
Catamarans and cruisers and
Well, you know, the toys
fairies.
of rich people.
There you go. Yeah.
It is a Bond meets Men in Black kind of movie with a mood. All right, Shashank says, I feel this is the kind of film that intrigues you a lot more than even the usual Nolan flair. It's a movie that provokes discussion, absolutely. It's the kind of film that you would enjoy discussing, and then it goes further in a second comment, rather than watching. A great film, I loved it. Yeah, Shashank, I need to watch it again. We'll figure out how to make that happen for all of us. But I think actually, again, I recommend to everyone, watch it without trying to figure out the puzzle. And then watch to figure out the puzzle. And I'll actually link, Jim, you could have like a whole little hour of homework if you wanted to, but I did find a couple of great videos, one that describes the science and one that walks through inversion. So that if you wanted to kind of get a better handle on that, you can. Anyway, okay, keep moving. Shashank says favorite Nolan film would be The Prestige. All right, Katie agrees with Jim on the score. All right, Lost in the Reel, Sean says, this film unfortunately is close to the bottom of my Nolan list. Still my favorite in his filmography is Interstellar. Oh, Sean, them's fighting words.
Go on.
I do not think it's worthy of that. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Of course it's worthy of your filmography, or of your list. I just beg to differ. I don't know, Jim. Where would you rank Interstellar? If you're forced to put them, because ranking in on a certain level is kind of a fool's errand anyway. You know, like you can. What's your mood at that time? How do you view the world at that time? You know,
a tricky one. I didn't really consider. All the. Have I seen every Nolan movie? I think I must have. I forgot that he did The Prestige, for instance. But it's funny. I was on Screen Rant after watching the movie, and it's just like this 10 best scenes, the 6 worst things, and the 4 best things about this movie. It's just like the 10 best lines. I thought, the 10 best scenes. I thought, are there 10 scenes in this? But we just sort of,
or we just see it's like a weird Rashomon.
Yeah, set pieces. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's I'll have to get back to you on that one. But I remember being very impressed by Memento, but a lot of these things I should probably watch again before I said anything definitive. I've only seen Interstellar once, and it was
maybe that's something we can maybe a future collaboration for us, Jim and Sean from Lost in the Reel. Okay, moving forward here, Vlad comments, interesting that Nolan used a different composer. He had been using Hans Zimmer for a number of flicks. What do you like? What's your take on that, Jim? Who knows? We dig deep. It's just availability.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Hans Zimmer might be. Well, number one, I think Ludwig Göransson. He won the Primetime Emmy last year for composing for The Mandalorian. And maybe he's the new kid in town. I'm just looking up Hans Zimmer's age. No, he was born in 57, so he's not. I was thinking
literally 10 years older than I am.
Yeah, he's only in his 60s, so that's. I don't know. I don't know the scuttlebutt on that.
Just to try something different, maybe. Okay, here's a question, and I'll throw this out to the chat, especially Vlad. Do you think how would it have been different with Zimmer scoring this film? All right, Jelly Duck, visual effects and music score as layered. Yes, although in some ways, this is not a VFX heavy film, actually, in a weird way. Like, I mean, yeah, there's spectacle to it, but it's a lot of practicals, and I'm not even sure that's the. Again, it's almost like that's the puzzle. You know, you have these set pieces, these action set pieces, but you know, some of it you've seen, and I think Shashank had mentioned, you know, Mission Impossible. Like, I mean, there's a heist in it. There's, you know, getting into like a ton of getting into things. Yeah. So, but yes, is there layers there? Absolutely, Ahmed. Yeah, you bet. All right. Okay, moving along before we move on with our agenda. Okay. Oh, little back and forth. The adventure, the separate adventure, Jim, is starting.
Yeah.
All right. Richard's hot take. First take. Exciting, engaging film, but also a frustratingly confusing plot and poor, aren't we so witty dialogue. It goes to some of the clunkers. I also particularly, speaking of even all off notes, and yes, I know it's almost a pun in that I'm referring to that opening scene where the terrorist grabs, did you see that bit? Grabs the stand-up bass, or maybe it was a cello, and then crushes it. Yeah. And I'll step in it. And it's like, really? You had to, that's what he's going to be doing. Okay.
At that point, I half expected Bane to come out and go, "Sure, you think you're watching the symphony," you know, or something like that. And it was full on. And my son said, "Yeah, I'm getting real big, you know, Nolan vibes already from this." And it was from the attacker's point of view. So he kind of came in. The camera was just sort of over his shoulder, and he came down. He threw down instruments, and they were kicking clarinetists in the ribs and things like that.
Yeah, because when I think of a group that needs to be put in their place, it's orchestra musicians.
Well, I suspect that whole thing was inspired by that Moscow theater takeover.
Oh, yeah.
7, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Up to when they effed it up. Yeah, and killed a bunch of them.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to skip some of the comments specifically about Nolan because we're going to dedicate a whole chunk of our time just talking about Christopher's deal. Okay. Ahmed, thinking about split reverse, not just multi-layered. I don't. What do you think, Jim? I'm not sure I'm quite getting Ahmed here, but maybe I'm just totally. It's just totally going over my head.
I was thinking it might be something technical, but I don't know if can speak to that necessarily at this point.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, yes, is it multi? I would say, like any really well-made film, everything should be supporting everything else. Mm-hmm. And although, because of the way we hear things, it's a lot more subconscious. What we hear is usually supporting what's going on screen, and what's going on screen, like the way it's lit and shot, and the visual and the practical effects and the camera gags and everything, the reversing, it's really just, we'll just rewind the tape. I think that all lends, and Nolan really does, or this film, we see that to like the nth level. Mm-hmm. Okay, more chat about fave Nolan flicks. Here's a film I have not seen yet, Jim. You've seen Dunkirk, right? Isn't it one of your daughter's favorites?
Yes, I've seen it a couple times in the theater. I took my mom, and I think I took. Yeah, I've been to a few times. Then I took my mom with my daughter, and then tried unsuccessfully to explain it. The time. Because that's a whole chronology thing.
Yeah.
I unsuccessfully. I said, "See, that moment's the same as the previous moment. Remember when he waves with the wings?
Remember that? You remember that part?
Pilot, and then the tips is no. Okay, forget it. So that lasted about a half an hour. But it's. I had actually just forgotten that he had done that one. That's actually a really good movie. great score, great score, great everything. Yeah, it's
a great story. Like, are we taking?
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, okay, we got Eric Thorpe, Mr. Thorpe. Welcome.
Yes.
let's give this man a wave. Eric Thorpe. Okay, Eric. Eric chimes in. Hey yo. Starts off with a hot take. This is the kind of man we need to see more of in our chats. The Dark Knight trilogy of films are his 3 best movies. Inception is the 4th. The 4 of them are 4 of my all-time faves. But yes, I'd put TDKR as the second best movie after. So The Dark Knight Returns is the second best movie after The Dark Knight. Okay. All right. Well, there we go. We got a hot take from Mr. Eric Thorpe. Katie chiming in on what Richard said. Shashank, and you know what? Shashank reaching out. He's talking about how he's feeling about these films. Putting it right up there with Pulp Fiction, T2, Tenet. Divine force overseeing the film. All right.
I actually wonder. I was wondering about Shashank when I saw there's a couple segments that take place in Mumbai, and I just wanted to know if those rang true to him, just the way they were filmed with the street scenes and that sort of thing. And actually, if he's ever been there, because of course, India is a gigantic country, so I hadn't when I went there. So.
Well, Shashank, there you go. All right, next on the agenda, let's talk about, you know what, why don't we, been talking about this a bit, why don't we talk about the performances? I'll jump ahead and kind of break it up a little. What about the performances? What did you think, Jim?
Well, looking back, it's funny because there are so many actors that are in this for like one scene. I think old indie favorite Martin Donovan is in this, star of a lot of Hal Hartley movies back in the 80s. Who else? Sir Michael Caine gets a
scene.
A scene. It's a good scene. A little exposition. A little too much exposition, I should say. And then Clemence Posey, I believe her name is, who played Fleur Delacour in Harry Potter. She's got the one scene, she seems kind of tired of explaining it, which I think is a choice. Like, she's like, and then this happens. Shut up. Let's not give each other. No small talk. I don't need to know who you are.
Yeah, I don't.
She seems kind of just a little bit like she's been in the lab for too many days in a row.
Getting a little pasty even.
And I think that was the choice. I don't think she was rolling her eyes at the material, but yeah. So there's a lot of those one shots. I think I'm still not 100% sure about Washington. John David Washington. He's good. He does everything that's I think called for him to do in this, but he's still a bit of a cipher to me. I think.
Okay.
Like, he did a fine job. I don't necessarily see him as the alpha to this spoiler. This whole Tenet program, which I think
really.
I don't know, but I would say that who I was actually quite impressed by was. I thought Robert Pattinson really brought a fresh. He was almost like this sort of Cary Grant kind of figure who was caught up in this. A little bit dashing, great hair, great clothes. He's like, he'll have a Diet Coke, I'll have a gin tonic. Like, he had
but a sweetness as well, though.
Yeah, not that. Yeah. Not a. Yeah, there
not too cool for school.
No, just sort of light.
Yeah.
Light on his feet, and I thought because there's some moments of humor, but it's a kind of a serious, kind of even a dour movie in a lot of ways.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's a moody.
Yeah, and I thought Robert Pattinson. Well, that whole, and you showed it during the clip, where he says, "Oh, my plan is to drive a plane into the airport building," and they say. I can't remember how they phrased it, but like an entire
dramatic.
Well, That part, yes.
Well, not
it is
that dramatic. Okay,
It is a
that.
bit dramatic, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, perfect, nice delivery there. He's a little bit awkward. And so I really enjoyed his performance. Like I said, I like John David Washington. And maybe this is why he was cast. He still, even after Black Klansman, sort of remains a bit of a cipher to me. I don't know that I've seen tons of emotional range in him, but that might just be me. It's not. I have to say though, I don't know if there's been too many. Nolan's done a movie with a black leading man, an African American leading man. And yeah, I thought it was like a nice choice. It could have been anybody. It's one of those roles. It could have been anybody.
Yeah. You know what? Myself, I really did. Yeah, Jim, I liked all the performances. I kind of snippets of criticism. I maybe a little bit agree with the Branagh's scenery chewing Russian villain. The standout. Oh, and interestingly enough, Aaron Taylor Johnson of Kick-Ass fame had a bit in it, delivered well, and it was only until, and I think he did well in it. He plays a soldier we only meet well, like basically in at the end of the second and in the third act. I thought he did a great job, and also that I didn't know it was him in the best way until the credits. And I'm like, wait, who was... That was the guy. Awesome. But I think the standout, and this is going to hook into my criticism of a lot of the criticism I've heard, but one of the standouts here was Elizabeth Debicki, playing not your standard, because I think in some ways, Jim, this was, and the performances supported that, this was the anti, in a way, there's an anti-James Bond film in this film. And you've got Washington playing a moralistic lead. The protagonist as I have lines. Like, it's called Tenet for a reason. It's a first principle. It's not just a palindrome. I think, and Pattinson, who could have, you could see them casting him as Bond, a future Bond. Absolutely. Has all that. And spoiler alert. He just, in the end, we know his fate, and that is not a standard Bond thing. And then Debicki, she is not your, when will some other dashing man come save me from this asshole? No, she's one of the last scenes in the movie, she is cold, and the way they set that up, it's like, there's something else going on in this film. You got to read it differently. And once you kind of get past that, you're kind of going, I am not seeing a typical Bond film. Like, I've certainly seen criticisms about, they don't have any chemistry. It's like, they're not supposed to get together. Washington's like, I've kind of exploited a woman in an abusive relationship who's blackmailed like so many women in abusive relationships. It's like, I can't leave without my child. And he's gonna, and then the way she takes care of business at the end, again, not your standard Bond thing where the villain dies by the Bond guy, and she delivers that. I think she delivers that. I think we see that character development. Maybe right. The only one, but I thought that was standout.
And the positive thing about that is, in a number of ways, is that she's given stuff to do. I mean,
yes, important, like plot driving stuff.
And I was sort of worried. One of the last scenes they have together, her and Kenneth Branagh, who is Satyr, her, which sounds a lot like sadism. These names, I think, are chosen for a reason. He's going to strike
a classic
out
Russian name.
Yeah, he's going to strike out at her, and he's sort of cornered her in her bedroom on the yacht, and he's like putting things in a belt, and I suspect he was
cufflinks.
Oh, was it?
To
okay, yeah.
beat her with it.
I thought there were earrings or something, and I just thought, is this gonna be like a guy stitching himself up in Pan's Labyrinth kind of situation, like one of these, like, where is this going? Because that's not my idea of a good time. But watching something like I don't like that kind of, when it gets tortury, not my favorite thing. But that gets avoided, and so I was sort of worried where that was heading. But she is given, especially in the last act, a lot to do. And even the sort of the figure of the woman diving from the boat is kind of poetic.
A nice little
little roundabout there. So
well, and also kind of going to one of the, maybe not a theme of the film, but certainly one of its story points is it's already happened. Because earlier in the film she refers to, and then I saw this woman jump off and he disappeared, and that idea that this has already happened. You can't change it, you're just trying to stop things from changing that. Which I think was one of the, again, I'm not sure if we could really call it a theme, but definitely one of the story devices. Maybe that would be a better way to describe it. What did you think of, was there anyone, I don't know, I don't think there's a weak link in the performance, performances. They all, except for maybe the Russians' henchmen, who are, like, you see them in multiple scenes, but they're just like, I am a generic thuggish, like a stereotypical thuggish tattooed Russian criminal, not even an unfair assumption. Who knows? They never speak, or if they speak just enough that there's a slightly Eastern European accent.
Kind of vaguely. I think that guy, I looked him, like, the main one that he relies on is in he's in Game of Thrones or something. He's one of these sort of freakishly strong and tall performers.
Of course.
Plays somebody mean and murderous. But the other one, a little bit of the drawing one is for any fans of Avenue 5. Himesh Patel is their sort of helper. He's the one driving the boat at the end with Elizabeth Debicki, and he's actually on Avenue 5. He's a very bad stand-up comedian that they have on board the spaceship, and he never gets any laughter. What about shoehorns? Is sort of one of his
one of his bits.
And so it's just sort of funny seeing him in a get down to business kind of role.
All right. Shashank did answer your question, Jim. I was born in Mumbai and visit there every summer vacation. The scenes were authentic. Well, there you go. I kind of enjoy. I enjoy the fact that we acknowledge big countries, and then it's like, well, no, I was born there every summer.
Yep.
That's awesome. We do have the best chat on the internet. All right. Speaking of which, let's just going to get back into the chat for a bit, Jim. Let's catch up with their adventure. Okay. Some back and forth about Dunkirk and Tarantino. Vlad's talking about apparently Tarantino rated Dunkirk as in the top 3 movies of the past decade. All right. Eric Thorpe says, I just think that plot conveniences aside, at the end of the day, the Dark Knight trilogy... Oh, okay, all right. This is Dark Knight chatter between others. I will let that... okay, well, wait a sec. No, he does move into a second chat where he refers to Tenet. Okay, the end of the day, the Dark Knight trilogy, more so than any of his other films, have a lot more emotional heft that many complain of some of his other films, such as Tenet, are lacking to some degree. Plus, they have all of the amazing craft that all of his movies have. So I think he shined the brightest when he was working with established characters. You know what, Eric? I'm going to push back at you on the emotional heft. I think this actually, again, if you let the puzzle stuff just sort of flow over you, I think this actually has the emotional heft. It's understated, but it is there. And you know what? We'll get into that in a second. Maybe, you know, if it's cool with you, Jim, we can even move into theme after we catch up with the chat. And listen to this. Shashank, unlike you and I, Shashank thinks the performance is the weakest aspects of the film. Thought Washington was bland. Barring Kenneth Branagh, felt the performances were just fine. Now, Shashank, does that mean you thought Kenneth Branagh's performances were better than most or were less than most? Look, Eric and Shashank are agreeing. The Upside Down says thought the performances were really good, but other than Elizabeth Debicki, you don't really get much development. I am going to push back on that too. It all ties together, I think. Eric did think Debicki was great. Shashank thought Pattinson and Kenneth Branagh were great, barring that the rest, everyone else was just fine other than Pattinson and Kenneth Branagh. All right. Then more about the abusive husband, the kid as a motivator. Someone's recommending Good Time from Robert Pattinson. That's The Upside Down. All right. Shashank thought there was more humor. Okay. Eric still ringing the bell for The Dark Knight. Good for you, Eric. All right, Eric, the anti-James Bond. This is where I'm going to get to this. I will bring that home. You may not agree with me, and no one has to, but I think I can bring this home. I can, and I don't mean it in all ways, in many ways. But the way the pincer movement was choreographed, action sequence, we can come back to that. We're going to come back to that when we talk about production values a bit more, Shashank. I agree. That was a great set piece, eh, Jim? The big ender, you know?
And I think Vlad had mentioned earlier that it's one of those tell-all trailers. But I would say that they're pretty clever at sort of not... Because I don't think any of that imagery from the last 25 minutes was at all in the trailer, and I didn't see stills. I mean, that whole section with the old Russian town, I didn't see any of it. So some I don't love trailers that show too much or sort of give you the bait and switch, make you think you're going to see something else. But I sort of recognize that they're often cleverly done. They'll take a moment out of context. But so that it was great. I didn't know what to expect there because it was nicely fresh to me. So I didn't even expect that sort of disintegrating city that they had as the setting.
Okay, why don't we talk a bit, because there's more about how Bond has been subverted by Bond already, and I'm not saying it hasn't taken little pot shots at itself here and there. But I think this goes to another level. And there's more emotional heft than, people are giving it credit for. Again, because people get caught up in trying to solve the puzzle. That's my argument. Okay, theme though, before we get into my pitch, what do you, Jim, what do you think this movie, let's, what's the movie about? What is it really about? Well, and I would actually say this is one of the weakest things of Nolan films.
Yeah.
It's so plot heavy. It's like, well, what's the theme? What's it really about?
I coming away from it, and it's kind of funny. Just a little bit of an aside here. My wife and I often look for something to watch ourselves if we're not watching series. So she had mentioned interest in seeing Underwater, which was the Kristen Stewart movie. It's speaking of Robert Pattinson, from last year, a little bit of an underwater drilling site disaster kind of thing.
Which unfortunately I couldn't finish. Actually,
thought
I
it was
couldn't
really
get
tight.
it to the first act.
I
I
thought it was
couldn't
really
finish
tight.
the first act.
I thought she was great. There was a little bit incoherence in the underwater scenes in the middle third, I'd say, second act, I guess. But that had to do with almost too obviously a bit on the nose. We drilled too deep. Oh, what have we done? No. In this case, they mention there's what's the word I'm looking for? There's sort of an existential crisis here as well, and I think the Satyr character says, if I take I'm going to paraphrase badly here, but I think he says, if we take out the world now, our future generations, we won't have to deal with global warming or the rising sea, and how dare I bring a son into this world?
It was his greatest sin.
My greatest sin, yeah. That sort of all comes out towards the end. They don't really talk. They're too busy backwards fighting and chasing cars that are chasing them, for the first 3 quarters. But that sort of unveils itself towards the end of it, and I think that would sort of be, there is the ability. And it doesn't mention nuclear weapons, I don't think, at all. But it does.
It's constantly referring to it as that must be what we're talking about, and then it's like, no. There's worse.
Yeah.
It's an algorithm built into a thing.
There's a consciousness, I think, of
Expelliarmus.
The ability.
Let us go into the pensieve.
And Robert Pattinson leaves to play Quidditch.
Exactly.
Before
he's bumped off in the Triwizard Cup.
Oh my God!
The very end.
No. He had such great hair. So I think there's an element of our ability to destruct ourselves. And you can take that down to finer points too. Yeah. But I think there's a he basically brews on that. I think that's what this movie is sort of ultimately about. Is the chance
nihilism, or there's still something worth fighting over. Yeah. Maybe,
and it may have been put in there late too. It's like, oh God, we need a theme here. Throw in a couple lines about.
He's got to justify his behavior.
Climate change, and we'll be good.
Yeah. Well, and even in that scene, just did not fit the rest of the movie and all the other behavior. And I know we're going back. The narrative starts. Let's call it day 14. And there'll be people out there with charts. But let's say day 14 is where let's say this action really starts. Of course, he's at the Washington, the protagonist. There's some again. It's like, really? I'm the protagonist. You got a name, buddy? No one have a name? Can somebody have a name?
Just to mention, just quickly, my son likes watching things with subtitles, just so he doesn't miss anything. So we watched it, and he's actually on the subtitle as protagonist. Like when multiple people are talking.
Yeah, that's the way he is in the credits. Like he's the man with no name. It's it'd be like in a Bond film, beep, beep, beep. Agent 007.
Yeah.
Where the heck was I with that? All right, theme, adding something in. Yeah, you got this cruel, hard-scrabble oligarch who, it's like, I don't see him being, because there's moments of genuine, seem to be tenderness almost in that kind of split scene, mostly at the end when he's with Debicki's character in her fake attempt to reconcile. And it's like, where's the the tiger. Like I think if there's a weak performance, and again, you know what? It's like, well, somebody was directing him. Yes, he's Kenneth Branagh, so he probably gets away with a lot more than others. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, he's and maybe he's just miscast. Maybe they could have gotten somebody else who has more of a sense of just restrained danger, you know? Beating somebody to death with a brick of gold isn't enough.
Yeah.
I wonder, though, and maybe this is something that can be talked about in all his films. He's so, like, if you look at Interstellar, one of the weakest parts, I think, of Interstellar is the whole soliloquy on love transcending time. And it's like, well, I guess this is the theme. And heck, I think of love as a thing. And this makes me believe in it a little less. This is delivered so poorly, you know, and so on the nose.
Yeah.
I think he's just more interested in drier ideas. And maybe to go to Eric's point, one of the things you could say about like any superhero movie, there is very much like it's cooked in. We must save life, and you got to have some kid to save or something. Like, I mean, it's cooked into that story. That emotional connection to a theme we can all relate to. But if you look at his other stuff, I mean, Inception was probably the only one there's a character with a real emotional drive. He needs to get back to his kids. Mm-hmm. That is his deep need, and everything he's doing, you know, and everything that holds him back is that, you know, it's about the kids. It's about his, you know, he's held back by the memory of his dead wife, and, you know, getting to his kids and some other stuff. Whereas this, it's harder to see, which is why I think I like the Debicki character. But even this guy, like it seems to be his Washington's drive is very much a moral drive. Mm-hmm. But, you know, like, I mean, there's a moment when he's shedding a few tears for his former comrades who've all been bumped off by who knows who, you know. There is and even I got a little choked up, and this is where I really started to appreciate the film and the emotional heft that is there. It's just understated.
Yeah.
When he's having his moment where he realizes this is one of my closest friends. He's going to be, Washington and Pattinson are on there, and he knows Pattinson's going to his doom, but he's going to have this great but really kind of sad relationship with this guy, whereas Pattinson is like, oh, this is sad because I think, yeah, our friendship's changing. Or maybe even Pattinson knows, yeah, I know I'm going to my doom, but I'm good with it. It's all behind me, and this is okay to end. And he's got to look forward to a friendship where it's going to end, and he knows the day, and he knows he's the one who brings him into it, and all that stuff. And that got me in the feels, you know.
What's the what's
Pattinson? Yeah. And I think that kind of goes to Pattinson's kind of thing. And it's forever tests, right? It's right at the beginning. You know, it's a test, a moral test. So I think that's kind of the thing. What would you do to save the world? Do you have a limit? What is your first principle? What is your tenet? What do you live by? And what's his name? You know what? I think it's almost all bullshit when he talks about when Branagh's characters, Seltzer. Thank you. When he talks about, oh, well, it's all shit, and so, you know, when it's really, you saw his selfishness, it's all about me, after me, the flood, you know, when he's going to beat his wife. If I can't have you, no one can have you. That's his thing. Whereas Washington, his is, yeah, how far, you know what, we want to protect it all. How far are you willing to go for that? You know, what is your limit? Because if you don't have any limits, you're just like the other assholes, you know? And I think that goes to those themes. Sorry, yeah?
Yeah. It literally just occurred to me now, him at the start, that sort of the I don't even know if it was act was the first 10 minutes of the movie where he takes the cyanide caplet that's not really cyanide, and that was the test, right? And so
Yeah.
he sort of wakes up, expecting not to be alive anymore. And I just thought it's a little bit like Captain America when he sacrifices his
jumps
life,
on the
grenade.
Get away! Get away!
And he's the one, because that's the. I like the cut of his jib,
Well, the CIA guy saying, "Well, you passed a test." I did not. It goes in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What are you willing to do? Elizabeth Debicki, her character, it's it's cooked in right there. She doesn't have to have an attraction to anybody. I really believed her when she said, "Do you see me worried about you?" Maybe she is a little, but it's like really her drive is, how do I get out of this shit marriage? I've been doomed. Maybe this guy can help me get out. But in the end, she takes care of business and takes care of it in such a boss way. I mean, holy crap, right down to it's slippery. Oh, let's get some of this crap on your back. It's just, holy shit. Wow.
Yeah. Well, she was squirting it on the floor, and I'm like, what is she up to? And she's severing the little lines, the cables there, the safety cables, and then
really layers it on thick on his back.
Yeah.
And then just finally it's I'm doing it. Blam.
That was quite a death for his character, and I quite enjoyed the mannequin work when they pushed him off the boat.
Oh yeah,
and hit the railings on the way down. That was kind of like a whoa kind of moment.
Well, and this is one of those anti-Bond moments. First of all, to be dispatched so not in a big climactic tension building, and not poetically dying, not in his own device. They use a lot of those in those kind of movies. Yeah. No, literally, by one of his biggest victims, and just dispatched that way. You're just a body being, and then later on dragged behind the boat. Just immediately you are nothing. Yeah. And I think that was so stone cold, and to be delivered by. To be delivered by the woman, the damsel in distress, that way, under all her own steam, is just, and against the other's wishes. Listen, you got to hold. You're the backstop. And she's like, yeah, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
That's an anti-Bond moment. The protagonist is even right down to the, you're all working for me. Bond is almost always like a free agent. This guy isn't. He's not this free agent. He's not this freelance, within the company, but a freelancer, just screw management. It's a different kind of, and yes, I think in some ways one of the better critiques of the Bond film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, not one of the better, one of the best critiques of Bond films.
Well, also nobody gets any in this movie, which is another. Nobody. There's none of that foo-fa-ra. None of the, there's no extracurricular activities. It's
minimal.
And it's not really seen as being a point of it. There's no near misses or ships that pass in the night, nothing like that. I think there's a couple of kisses on the cheek, and it's sort of that's kind of a grown
and
up
male posturing about it. Have you slept with my wife? No, not yet. But sorry,
I was telling you, I think privately, not on this show, is that during Boxing Day we were doing a puzzle and sort of hung over, and with food and booze, and we had Superman versus Batman on in the TV in the background, and we were too lazy to turn it off. And Ben Affleck's got women in his bed, and you see a hip and an arm and some hair, and they don't have names, and they, it's just it was so douchey, and this didn't have it. I didn't miss it.
No,
it's grown up.
It's not your classic male fantasy, young male fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I mean, it's not a. I mean, all these films, and I still think I can make an effective argument. Notwithstanding this flick, Jim, Nolan's a kind of center right guy, and his films are center right wing. The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises being perfect examples of that. That said, there isn't as heavy a male gaze. Like, we never have that full body shot of Debicki. It's her in the bedroom is never, it's never, oh, I'm just here in my lingerie as I usually lounge about. Yeah. Never once. Like, it's not, it's still one of these films. Of course, the woman's just this tall, ridiculously attractive blonde, Nordic drink of water.
Wears clothes well, and
yeah. But yeah, like, I mean, even the clothes she wears aren't like, designer, but not.
They're almost 1950s style, like a lot of those sort of summer dresses and things like that she swims with, by the way, there was it's a whole other thing.
It's not but, so I think. Oh yeah. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say I like some of the transitions. They were just like they didn't spend a lot of time sort of watching her climb up the boat. She was just in this dress in the speedboat, and then bam, same dress, all wet on the deck of the cruiser.
No. No, it's unique. Do I think this goes to theme? Not so much, other than maybe he was like, I'd have to watch a couple of interviews, see, but it could have just have been, I don't want to make that. That's not the movie I'm going to make. So I'm not sure what was going on with Debicki as part of the theme, other than it goes to his motivation. Again, she isn't a loose end who gets tied up. He's all the way through. He's forever being tested. Hey, what's the line to protect the organization, to protect the mission and everything? And he draws this line with her, and he makes that clear to everyone. And I think that goes to that theme. Like, he's the, in a way, it's the protagonist for good and the antagonist for selfish evil, Which is, again, not exactly the deepest theme you could come up with. But the fact that he gives Debicki enough to do, that he makes, that Pattinson is the character he gets to be, shows that there is emotion. There's an emotional heft to this film. Again, if you let go of the puzzle solving just for a bit, there's feels in this flick. And there's some cold shit in this flick. Oh, well. I think it is time to get to the chat, because I suspect a lot of people don't agree with me on this one. Let's check in. All right. Okay. People talking about just this, about that Bond thing. Eric figures, yes, I think Bond movies have already done similar things that subvert the classic Bond girl tropes. Vlad agrees with Eric. Eric, yes, ever since Judy D gave Bond his first dressing down in GoldenEye. Even called him a misogynist in that. It didn't really stop Bond from being Bond. Until, what did we got the moodier, well, even there's kind of a seduction, but we got the moodier Casino Royale. I think that's when things started to change. Bond started to, hey, I'm only 10 years behind the times. Shashank, referring to an earlier comment, managed if there's a Kali Yuga, it would look like that. Oh, all right. Oh, he's talking about the final set piece.
Okay.
And I'm going to have to look up Kali Yuga. All right, Eric Thorpe. Yes, GoldenEye is one of his all-time favorite films, along with Casino Royale and Skyfall. Shashank. Now, maybe I'm getting the order wrong. Wasn't GoldenEye... Where does it fit in the order?
Oh,
so it was, okay, was it Casino, GoldenEye, and then Skyfall?
Casino was the first one with Craig. Daniel Craig.
Yeah. Did he... Because I want to say GoldenEye was with Pierce Brosnan. Yeah. Okay. All right. Shashank. Question to you guys. Whatever, you can answer it in the show. Do you believe that we give directors like Nolan or a pass even when their films are not up to the mark? That is a great question that we've got to pin. Although I'm wondering, Jim, did we kind of answer this in a way when we were talking about Da 5 Bloods? I think we kind of...
I mean, I think it came up almost maybe in how other people relate.
When I was making fun of all the critics that were fawning over
how
it.
other people consider him. But as to ourselves, I mean, you know, there's the whole notion of confirmation bias that I find it hard for me to believe that if Wes Anderson came out, who I really like, came out with a movie that I would not like it. You know, it's almost
hard to believe.
You know, you're attracted to films that you're attracted to, and you're going to want to. I mean, I think that's a psychological mechanism that's probably happening because you're going to want to like them because they appeal to you.
You're absolutely right. So I think, I agree with you, Jim. Like, I mean, psychological research is pretty clear. That's why they do double-blind studies, you know, because otherwise we see what we want to see in many respects. It's really, it can be really difficult, I think, sometimes to take your own, at least be aware of your bias.
Yeah.
So,
you know, even the notion of having a favorite director in the first place, I think it interferes with your judgment ultimately. But, you know, and I think it's been said on the chat today, nobody's 100% objective. So.
Yeah. Well, but and some of the other things, though, it's so Eric Thorpe he puts it out there. I really don't think Nolan or Tarantino have a bad movie, though. And I'm maybe not a bad one. Like there's a minimum quality standard. Although, heck, Da 5 Bloods, as far as I'm concerned, Spike Lee made a bad movie there. Fudge, we may have to circle back to this one too, Eric. Oh, you know what? I think this is... Now, Shashank says, I wonder how the reaction by some of the Nolan fanboys may have been if it had been directed by some other director. You know, I'm wondering, though, if we can almost kind of separate... What do you think of this, Jim, and you, Shashank, and everyone in the chat? You know, when we talk about fanboys, like, I mean, I'll use a clearer example. Fans of, you know, Marvel or the Star Wars folks. I would argue that they're more, that it's become, or Zack Snyder fans. And not all Zack Snyder fans, but there's an element where it's like it's a part of their identity. Who are you? Well, I'm a Zack Snyder film fan. So yeah, I use the term very loosely and lightly here, but kind of members of like a really, you know, a part-time cult. You know, like, I mean, and so I think when you see those reactions, what you really are is seeing people who feel their identity is being attacked.
Yeah.
You know, that you... Go ahead, Jim.
Just an insane reaction to like Kelly Marie Tran and things like that, and
Yeah, like that's just well, and that even kind of comes up in the current politics of our time, right? Yeah, Marie Tran was, that was as much about what's going on outside of physical theaters and almost nothing to do with Star Wars. There's an element of people who are those crazy Star Wars fans who are also part of an outside political context, right? So it's always kind of tough there. It's one of the reasons I do kind of like what we do here and why I love our chat. Why our chat is the best. Is that we kind of push each other. We kind of at least have to have a bit of an argument.
Yeah.
And because we're all suffer confirmation bias, you got to kind of hear other people who are going to point out things that you're not seeing because you're focused at finding the evidence you want to hear. Much like a certain elected official was saying, I just need to find so many votes.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the thing. Vlad, 65. This would be a good one. I'm of the Connery generation, but I agree about Casino Royale and GoldenEye, but thought the finale of Skyfall didn't make it. Judi Dench dying gave the film more gravitas than it deserved. Ooh, that's maybe not a hot take. You got something there, I think, Vlad, but good point. Eric Thorpe goes, Martin Campbell needs to direct one last Bond movie since he literally made the two best, arguably the two best, which were, because, yeah, I've really dropped off. I mean, I grew up with Bond films. I don't know about you, Jim. It seemed to be, it was just, you had to go. Oh, it's another Bond film. You go. And I want to say I started with Moonraker.
Yes.
Or...
Yep, at the Colony.
Yeah. Yes, my first Bond.
Tower. The theater that I saw Moonraker in literally does not exist anymore.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Along with all those downtown theaters.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. The town came after.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to the point where I saw Casino Royale. I enjoyed it. I think I saw GoldenEye and Skyfall as well. So obviously GoldenEye, I'm not thinking maybe it wasn't Pierce Brosnan. I don't know. They all mush together.
Yeah.
This is my criticism of Bond films. Okay. Shashank says, Eric Thorpe, yes, they have never made a bad movie, but do the reactions of people differ? It is directed by some other... Okay, these guys are chiming in. Oh, the Upside Down's got to go, and probably left a while ago.
Yeah,
I have to get up early, but I will only stop by. Good night, everyone. Upside Down, good night. Thanks for coming out. If you come back, you'll reach a point where we sing your praises. Dan, thanks for popping in. All right. Okay. Lost in the Reel. Shashank, that's a great question. I feel like some critics become more critical with directors like Nolan and Quentin Tarantino, whereas some do give them a pass and try to find just the good in each film. I don't know if anyone in the chat or Jim, if you guys are familiar with, was it Dan Durrell, Dan Burnell, Dan in the Numbers. He does. He's a film reviewer, like much bigger deal than you and I are, Jim. But we'll get there. But he did a great thing, an analysis of the Wonder Woman, and I'll link it. I'll pin a comment with this reference. But it was a great bit on a discussion of why Wonder Woman's numbers, like her Rotten Tomato score, dropped. And he kind of went through, he was looking at more of the gender breakdown, but what was interesting was it came in like three phases. The people who got the super early look, their score was X. The people who got the still early, but not as early. It was a little lower. And then the people who were like, well, you get to see it on the day, or, that was the lowest, and the ratings have only gone down. And all I can think there was, and it didn't seem like there's a big gender disparity, but Jim, all I could think was, hey, there's some reviewers, not like back in when we were younger with the quote whoring, but there's still, even now, there's some people that they're easy markers. And then there's some people who are hard markers. And I think that's what you saw with Wonder Woman, is the one, okay, find it. We need buzz. Find every easy marker. We'll get them in early, and we'll get some momentum. I mean, I'm sure every movie tries this, but at this time they could get every easy marker, because what the hell were they doing otherwise?
It's funny, in the first
like us reviewing yet another Netflix film.
in the first few years of Entertainment Tonight, this is probably before, and it's not a show I watch anymore, but when I was a kid, pre-internet, it was a pretty good source of information about movies coming out and stuff. Leonard Maltin actually did movie reviews for them, and they got rid of that pretty quickly, after a few years, because you can't speak glowingly of the stars of a movie that your critic panned, I suspect.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, and even with like legitimate reviewers, as objective as they can, some are just going to be like, I think Sean was saying, looking for the good in the film.
Yeah.
And then there's others where they're hard markers. Mm-hmm. And even, there's nothing wrong with somebody who brings a game consistently to say, yeah, you're not giving us your 100%. Mm. A great example, I think, in our experience, Jim, one of the movies I was in our year wrap up, The Vast of Night, I could say, if I had directed that, if that was my first outing, I'd be so proud. It'd be a great calling card flick. The guy's going to get other work if he wants it. But if a big name director came out with that, there'd be some going, oh, there's genius. But a lot of us would be going, what the hell, man? I was expecting more. Mm-hmm. And every right, because your name makes a promise. You have a reputation. You're promising an audience a certain level of experience. So if they come in under that, I think we as audience members have every right to go, well, what the WTF?
Yeah.
Okay. Eric. Well, I think nothing happens in a vacuum. Things like that will always affect people's opinions. I don't think I can ever be 100% objective. And none of us can. No. You're absolutely right, Eric. That's just not a thing we do as human beings. That's why we have tests. Okay. Vlad, pushing back on the greatest emotional heft for Dunkirk. Oh, it deals with the real subject of great historical importance. When they read Churchill's famous speech, it was something. Okay, I think this is we're jumping in on an adventure, Jim.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Shawshank. Now we're getting into theme. Okay, I feel this film was about the nature of man's destruction. Things keep going on in a cyclical fashion, and we can never recover from the consequences of our actions completely. That's an interesting point. And when I watch it again, because I suspect I will watch this movie again, it'll reward me again, I suspect. I'm gonna keep an eye out for that, Shawshank. Thanks very much. Oh, okay, Vlad and Eric are going back and forth about the characters in Dunkirk. We'll let them have their adventure. All right, Shawshank. Felt it was also Nolan's commentary on companies like SpaceX by Elon Musk. Man playing God and how much man can imitate God. Yeah, I'm not...
I think that...
He wasn't a tech guy. He was just such an oligarchical criminal. Yeah. I'm not sure that...
They mentioned playing God toward the end a little bit.
Yeah, it was part of his, evildoer soliloquy at the end. I will now tell you my master plan. Except there was, I'll now tell you my motivation.
Yeah.
which I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not sure I was buying. All right. Okay, Eric, again, take this with a grain of salt. I love all of his films. He's my favorite director. No, not a very original pick to this day and age. You know what, Eric? A lot of people who pick the obscure, I don't know. What do you think, Jim? When you just, well, I really enjoyed, Godard. Yeah. My favorite director was Godard. He was a French New Wave guy.
I'm kind of
sure.
I'm a little bit of two minds on this. It all used to sort of stems back from the critics' year-end lists from years ago. Like as long as I've been reading them. And I always thought, oh, these bands / movies, oh, of course you like this pretentious band, or of course you like this art house movie. And then I started to realize that not everything of quality was a big commercial hit. And so those lists started to make a little more sense to me. And then once you start sampling things that aren't maybe in the top 10, and you start finding things on your own, that's part of its own kind of bias, I think. You stumble on little indies, or you stumble on local bands that you like. I sort of get it a little bit more nowadays. But I, at the same time, I think sometimes people pick a movie for the reaction that like, what's your favorite movie of the year? And they might say, First Cow was a big one. And I have no judgment on it. This past year, it was just something that most people, a lot of people hadn't seen, to the point where Obama released his list of favorite movies of the year, and somebody on Twitter said, hasn't he seen First Cow? Because First Cow was missing. But anyway, and it could be that it's a great little movie, and sometimes it does pay off that when you finally do get a chance to listen to this band that you hear so much about, you're like, okay, they're actually different.
I see the hullabaloo.
I see it now. Yeah. Exactly. So.
Well, that's a great point, Jim. Do you kind of wondering? I've certainly had that experience myself, and sometimes we're forever. You don't want to be called pretentious, but at the same time, you want to show that you have taste.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a struggle. There's a tension there. And especially I think as, I believe that, the book's title is The Authenticity Hoax. And if I find a link, I'll put it in the description. I will put it in as an Amazon affiliate link. But one of the things I drew from that, one of the things the writer kind of hit home on was, how we compete for status in class. And no, this wasn't a Marxist writer. He's actually kind of a center-right, Carlton U kind of guy, or Ottawa U. I don't know. Center-right.
Yeah.
But he was saying, listen, you know what? This is the way it works. If you're poor, you compete for status amongst your poor peers because you have real resources. I have a running car. I can help get people to places, so it's real resources, and that raises your status within your peer group. The rich, that's why it's why everything looks so tacky, is because they're competing on, you have 5 cars, I have 8 cars, and there's always somebody richer who can buy more or buy it more gold, just the way the rich compete for status amongst their peers. When they're showing off at a cocktail party, when they want something to talk about that. And what do we what does the middle class have? Taste. You can't it's why the middle class is making all this sourdough bread. It established taste. You know what I mean? And me, Jim, as a like in IRL, as a foodie and that, but I'm aware, especially I was making city money, I could compete at that level on taste. So I think some of that is also in the films we like, the filmmakers we like. You know, it's a part of establishing that you have taste, that you're culturally educated, you know.
There's I'm just finishing off just quickly. I'm finishing off Paul Theroux's Happy Isles of Oceania, which goes to 51 islands at 700 pages, and he's in Hawaii, and he says, I don't know why cars are so important here, or I didn't know why cars are so important here. There's nowhere to go. It's an island, you know. But he says they're very important.
I like that, Jim. It's an island.
Says, and paraphrasing again here, he says that in a place where everybody dresses the same, shorts, t-shirts, flip-flops, the thing that separates you from each other is your vehicle. So that was kind of an interesting little 30-year-old take, but
but it goes to that same kind of idea. All right, just kind of working through the chat here, at least try and catch up. All right, it looks like everyone's kind of converging on an opinion that, okay, maybe Mr. Nolan's films are totally emotionally without, you know, heft. They're not just emotionless exercises in puzzle solving, in plot-driven puzzle solving. All right, Eric Thorpe, who, you know what, the DCE, what is the Dark Knight trilogy is not part of the DCEU, is it? I don't think it is. Like they really do sort of, no, that's a thing over here. Like,
another dude.
Well, you know what? Maybe somebody can correct us if we're wrong, but yeah, I think they do stand alone. Okay. Yeah, you know what? Agree that everyone's starting to agree with each other. Okay, we've built some consensus. That's a nice thing too. Okay. All right. Walt says, you know, he does agree that Nolan's gimmicks or over tricky time obsessions can undercut dramatic tension. Yeah. You know, partly you just get so wrapped up in them, or you're forced to be wrapped up in them. You know. Well, and I guess that kind of leads us, because we can even start with the chat commenting. But you know what, Jim? I'm gonna maybe it's time to move out of what it's really about and into just what is Nolan's deal anyway? Because the chat is chiming in on that anyhow.
Yeah.
You good with this?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Oh, wait, one more just brief aside to previous. Katie on Debicki's badass taking care of her ex. Drag behind the boat, Weekend at Bernie's style.
Even dressed similarly, you know.
You know what?
Little button-up shirt.
I think Katie deserves a...
No.
All right, enough of that nonsense. Back to here. All right, okay. Oh, another 100 in the chat, Jim, because we're doing it. All right, okay. Oh, so I guess, okay, going back to Eric. So I guess how or why characters get somewhere is just a bit too obvious from Nolan's perspective. There's a hot take. Perhaps it's number 2 behind Katie's Weekend at Bernie's style. Good one, Eric. Okay, we got Ahmed talking about Sean Connery doing his best for James Bond films. First Brosnan Bond. So we're going back to GoldenEye. Okay, all right. But same director as Casino Royale. Eric, thanks very much. You keep this up, you're going to become a member of the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars. All right, Ahmed, Pierce Brosnan. Vlad, going back to Jelly Duck's Sheshank's question about directors getting slack cut because they're whatever. They're a big deal. Vlad65. On Shawshank's question, I think that some people are tougher on noted directors because the stakes are so high, which I think kind of goes back, like I think that was overlaps with what I was saying about that. I guess I was basically, we have a right to expect more and judge harsher, you know? Shawshank. The Five Bloods was a stinker, wasn't it, Shawshank? All right.
On a lot of year-end favorite lists, which is interesting. I mean, everyone's a critic.
Hey, great line, Jim. That's awesome. Okay, Eric. I mean, Nolan is my favorite director, but only the Dark Knight trilogy and Inception would be in what I consider my all-time favorite movies. So it's not like all of his movies are, even though they're great. Yeah, well, and plus you...
Yeah.
Pardon?
So I think you should add a comma. All of his movies are even, comma, though they're great.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he meant. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, all good. Little live editing, folks, from the actual professional. The professional writer here, Mr. Jim Chilboyko. All right. Thank you. Okay, it's ironic that Gene Reno plays MAGA hat with the Five Bloods. Yeah, that's right. All right. Vlad65. People loved Jackson for the Lord of the Ring films and pilloried him for the Hobbit films. Was that, though, was he... So, Vlad, do you think he was pilloried strictly because he was a big deal, or because there was legitimate problems with the Hobbit films that somehow still managed to make billions? I don't think anyone lost their shirt on that one. Okay. Eric, I need to introduce you. Jackson is one of Eric's favorite directors, and I need to introduce you to a fine young man named János Sartorius. He's one of my friends in Germany, and he's similar to you, except his favorites are beers, and there's always a great beer just around the corner. So anyway, sorry, Eric, I'm having some fun at your expense. Jackson is one of my favorite directors just because he pulled off Lord of the Rings, but everything he did pre-Lord of the Rings, I cannot even watch, partly because it's really nasty, LOL. You know what, Eric? Give Beautiful Creatures a shot.
Yeah.
I think that's just almost a genius film. And yes, it was after all his gore stuff, but yeah, The Frighteners.
Yeah.
That was a Peter Jackson film.
Fox, yo.
But yes, Give Beautiful Creatures. It's starring Kate Winslet, and who was she ended up
Melanie something here. I can look it up.
Yeah, Melanie. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, she's still in the biz.
Yeah, she was a regular on 2.5 Men for like the whole run.
Yeah,
she was the crazy neighbor.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, like she's done well.
Heavenly Creatures. I put in Beautiful Creatures. Here it comes. It's coming.
Anyway, I'm going to keep moving on.
Melanie Linsky.
Thank you. All right, yeah, Eric, Beautiful Creatures. Awesome movie. Okay, Shashank says, oftentimes you say that even with Bollywood actors, a brand gets built that the artist himself may have never intended. Being a fanboy means you have ownership of that. Yeah, no, I agree completely. Eric, okay, this will be Eric and someone else in the chat. I'll put it up just to kind of stir that pot, but I'm not biting on this one. This is a good one. Shashank. So I feel that people feel that they understand Nolan more than Nolan himself. Film like Pulp Fiction, directed by Quentin Tarantino, has so much over-analysis. It's a question of ego, I feel. not sure where you're quite what you mean about that, Shashank. Maybe you can flesh that out a bit more. Ego of the person doing the over-analysis, or like Gemini? And if that's what you're saying, what are you, new here? No, you aren't. Okay, Vlad talking about gold. Okay, well, that's Vlad, and we'll just let them. Oh, Shashank. Dan Morell. That's the one. I'll find that piece. This is going back to that analysis of numbers for Wonder Woman. I'll find that piece and put it down there. Okay. Vlad and Eric going on about, I don't mean that pejoratively. Continuing the conversation. Eric Thorpe doesn't know why people hate Wonder Woman 84 so much. You know what? If we do it on the show, we expect you to come back, my friend, and we'll find out. Okay, bandwagon effects, still talking that. Shashank. Oh, Shashank, you hurt me. All right. Okay, let's get back to our agenda. We are getting, we're hitting, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. And yes, the movie was 2.5 hours, but we don't always have to exceed the runtime. You know what? Maybe, although before we do that, maybe it is time, Jim. Just a second here. I'm going to make it easier to get rid of those. Jim, what I think it is time, though, to, you know what? Ask everyone for a like. Perhaps a subscribe if you haven't already. And then, of course, don't forget to ring-a-ding that bell so you make sure you don't miss everything. I also do want to let everyone know, here, I'm going to just take over the screen for a sec, Jim. We do, and I'll make sure I put the link in the description and everything. Our second episode of our actual downloadable podcasts, Jim and Rob Over-Analyze Movies, is ready. That was our wrap-up show. Before that, we had Midnight. I hope to get this one out quite quickly, hopefully by latest Wednesday. But please check out our podcast, download it. You know, sometimes, you just want to let it play in the background because you weren't, you got caught up in one area or whatever. Pass it on to friends, family. Sharing is caring. I don't know. I think that's about the end of the shameless plug for now. All right, Jim. Next, before we, you know what? Do you think? Heck, I'm losing my train of thought here. Would you call this? Let's get a little arty here.
Sure.
We're going to get arty. Would you say that, like, you definitely, I would say Nolan fits in as an auteur. He's definitely, you know a Nolan film. Yeah. Much like you would know a Tarantino film. You'd know but is it... Are we talking like high art here? Or are we, like when I think of, when you try and break it down that way, looking at the iconography and that, like, I'm not sure, other than that obsession with time and of ways of playing with time, yeah, it's like, it doesn't seem to be, it's not like he's pushing the visuals, keeping a lot of special effects crews employed when everyone else is going to green screen and digital. Yeah. But you know what? Like, I mean, yeah, where's that line? Like, I mean, or am I just crazy? That's for you folks in the chat too.
Yeah, I mean, it depends if you associate auteurs with more of sort of a lower key, sort of a Mike Lee or Michael Winterbottom kind of idea of the almost I think worked into there.
Terrence Malick.
Rightly or wrongly is also sort of like budget and indiness and all that kind of thing. So you could argue that that maybe Christopher Nolan's maybe a popular auteur, if that's a thing, maybe an auteur for the 21st century.
Yeah.
It's a different creature in any case.
But certainly one of the few can generate a huge amount of money without a notwithstanding the Dark Knight trilogy, everything else has been, I have come up with this idea. Not saying they're all super duper original. Like, I mean, time travel's a thing, you know. It's excuse me, it could almost be a genre. These is certainly the only one who can like open a film with not saying that Mr. Washington's a nobody, but he's not like it was in the 90s and even the aughts. Oh, you need a bankable star. You know, he's opening films that aren't, it's not Lord of the Rings, where it has this fan base built in. So you can have Viggo Mortensen, definitely an A-tier leading man, but not a bankable star. All this stuff like that he can do that kind of says something to his, I like the way, not, did you say mainstream or mass market auteur?
Popular, I think it said
popular auteur. Yeah. Well, and even the question might be the wrong question to be asking. Like, I mean, I think it behooves us to ask it, but it may be just misapplied here. I don't know.
No, but trying to get to the heart of what he's about, I think that's basically, I mean, the journey with that question is just trying to figure out what exactly he is. I mean, he makes these big ass popular theatrical releases, and I guess you'd have to get into things like, I don't know, would you even bring up Lucas or maybe early Lucas, with THX 1138? Not so much now, but or Spielberg or things like that. Again, early stages of those guys. But
or is he like cut from the same cloth? Just he's the now of, because it's not like Spielberg because both of them they created their own from I'll make a shark movie. I'll make like Close Encounters of Third Kind is kind of a mind blower with, again, not exactly, I'm going because it's Richard Dreyfuss, although, not a nobody. I picked him up off the street and explored if he was an actor at all. Yeah.
I mean, Fresh Off Jaws and Goodbye Girl and all that kind of stuff. But, no, it's a good. I think he's probably a hybrid of several different kinds, and maybe some of that's new for.
Here, 1 second. Make no apologies, Eric. You guys have your adventure. All the more reason to come back and listen to the replay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim, I interrupted.
No, it's okay. I'm just glad they don't have video chat on the side. That would be crazy.
You know what? The best salons, there's many conversations in the room. There may have been the main conversation, the main draw, but who am I? Oh. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you can read this because that sort of fits into a couple of things that I wanted to bring up.
Okay, so Katie Fowler says, just noticed the impressive lineup of film locations. More of damn, we should have had Katie on. You're right. Just noticed the impressive lineup of film locations: Estonia, India, Italy, Norway, Denmark, California, London, Hampshire. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's a travel movie in so many ways. I forgot to mention this at the beginning. It's kind of this is a two-parter. This is our time travel movie. Then we're going to do more of a journey travel movie next week with a special guest to be named shortly. Anyway, sorry, Jim. Chime in on this.
No. I was just going to say that I think it's visit. If you just look up Tenet filming locations, one of the first hits you get is visit Tallinn.ee, because EE is the Estonia country code, which is kind of cool. Or maybe it's Visit Estonia, but they have a list, and it turns out that the Kiev or Ukraine Opera House is actually a former Olympic sailing venue in Estonia. It's a current town hall, and so that's not in Ukraine, but many of the scenes, the Norwegian art, or the vault is actually an art museum in Tallinn, designed by a Finnish architect. It's a really interesting little page, anyway. But
okay, well, you know what? Maybe if you send me the link to that, sure, Jim, and I'll make sure I pin it somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say that while I really liked the globe-trotting nature of it. They mentioned Vietnam, sort of sailing in Vietnam too, although I'm not sure that you saw anything that gave it away that was Vietnam. There was the Amalfi Coast, of course, in Italy. Great looking movie, by the way. Even the dingy early scenes, there's a shot of him being tortured in between two rail cars. Even that looked great, but a couple of things.
Yeah, really. Like, how about them production values, Jim?
Yeah. Like, really good looking movie. Some great shots. A couple of them that my son and I just kind of went, oh, that's awesome. Or that's a cool look. Or even, the plane crashing into a building. You don't see that too often.
With the gold tumbling out of it.
Yes, yeah. I wrote that down. The gold bars is like something out of Mario Brothers falling on it, clattering.
Well, there's a part of me wondering, is that how he was, like, I thought, is that some weird puzzle piece where that's how he's actually financed, is somebody stole a bunch of that, and then it ends up in the future, or whatever, whatever. Yeah. Future crap. I got off that. Yeah, but anyway, go on.
It's that travel envy kind of aspect of movie watching, is that you're like, when are we going to be able to go to these places again? Because Estonia is definitely on my list, for sure. But and even something like the backwards fight that sort of the centerpiece of the film is the fight in the vault between the masked guy and our protagonist, and the sound effects aren't the landing of punches, but the sort of removing of punches. So it's a lot of thwip, thwip, thwip. Details like that are really outstanding. I thought. Pretty cool.
Here, quick. Let's say goodbye, good night, or good day to Ahmed. Jelly Duck, thanks so much for popping in and hanging out with us, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Dig the thing you did with the ukulele the other day. He had a nice little multi-play with his ukulele. It was kind of cool. I will send you the link, Jim. All right. Sorry, I just wanted to quickly say,
timing's good that way. But no, there's a lot, a lot of sound design stuff too that I don't have the technical aspect to talk about in any great detail. Just that it was cool, That's
well, you know what? Like, it's
a lot to say there anyway.
Yeah. I think about the production values. Yeah, they're just that what you would expect of going back to a film I criticized, and there was part of it with, like, again, I was whining about the budget. I will not say the number this time, although it's so hard not to. But you see movie where here that he's putting the money on the screen. Like that was, when I first got into film and filmmaking, that was a standard line. Is the money going on the screen? Don't pay that. Like even in indie filmmaking, they're like, cheap out on the camera, spend it on the art department. Everyone gets obsessed with the camera, the technical things, and it's like, no, give the money to the art department, give it to your lighting. You're like, your cinematographers say, don't spend too much on, that. Get as many lights as you want. Those are the things that are putting money on the screen. Good wardrobe. It doesn't have to be. And I thought the wardrobe had a real style to it. I even like when he got really fancy, he looks slightly uncomfortable in it without doing this, like he at no time did Washington ever, but they kind of made sure it was slightly posery, while at the same time he still handled it well. It's like, yeah, I could be an asshole. I do enjoy the controlling interest crack. That was a nice bit of humor. What did you think of did you find it stylized in any way in the look and that?
I mean, some of it was strangely aspirational. I keep on, one of the shots in the commercial or the trailers, John David sort of, our protagonist at the helm of a Miami, not unlike a Miami Vice speedboat with his polo shirt done all the way up. And like looking cool. So there's
as she just sits back there, looking like commercial model, beautiful. Yeah,
it was sort of aspirational in that fancy dinners. I did a little list, all the boats, throwaway shots like the Amalfi Coast. The clothes, and my favorite part was the snooty waiter who was just like, can you box that up?
Dick. No. Well, even I'll get a waiter for you. It's like, we know that doesn't happen in a. Yeah, that just doesn't happen. It's like, sure, I will let your waiter know.
It was like, we'll
take care of that for you, sir, or whatever. Yeah,
like a scene out of Last Holiday with Queen Latifah or something.
Which is interesting. Like Nolan is an upper middle class. Like he was born in the upper middle class in England, so like it didn't ring true to me. But maybe we're way off on that. Yeah, not really a production value question, but an interesting aside.
For me, it was the equivalent of the tiring librarian character who always goes, shh.
Yeah.
Come on. Really? We're going to deal with this snooty waiter? But anyway, it's not like it was a big part of the movie or anything. But
well, but you kind of wonder, what was the point of it then?
Yeah.
Like, what? Why?
Was it a race thing? Was it that he didn't belong there? And that's when Michael Caine said, if you're going to be a billionaire, you can't get away with Brooks Brothers. We're going to have to get you hooked up. So there's a little bit of that.
Here's your black card, spend it, whatever. Yeah, and then in the next scene, he's in a boat. I went and bought a boat. I bought a boat. It wasn't the next scene, but closely followed up with, we'll take my boat.
Cut to boat.
Yeah.
So there were certain sort of aspirational bits that were a little bit sort of, and again, it almost reminded me of the sort of that Law and Order, the series, the obsession with wealth that they have, and I mean, whatever. It's a small, it's a very small thing, but it was a little bit eye rolly, not too bad. Maybe watch it another couple of years, see if it looks silly, but
Again, I'm going to jump in a bit of a conversation here for a quick sec, Jim, where we it looks like Eric and Shashank are talking about the direction of where are we here?
Have we hit 200 messages yet?
Well, maybe we're getting there. People have been arguing that Nolan should go back to making smaller films like Memento or The Prestige. I would not call The Prestige a small film.
Yeah.
Like, he does enjoy a small number of characters, I think.
Yeah.
Like he really doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not like he's got supercast. Making films like Interstellar or Tenet allows for so much discussion. Okay, all right. The beauty of Nolan. He allows for people to have living room conversations on some time-bending concepts. A big blockbuster like Interstellar, Tenet allows for that. Eric is saying, yeah, I don't know where I would fall on that debate, Shawshank. I think I would have to say whatever direction Nolan feels is right for his next movie is what he should do. You know, here's an interesting, maybe I'll push back on both these guys. You know, it's kind of like, he'll make the movie he makes. I would be interested in watching the next thing he makes. The kind of the career advice that, and especially, I'm going to pick on poor John Campea, you know, who will talk about how should they cast it and who would be the perfect person to play that. And it's like, you know what? If it's effective, it'll be the one that they cast will be the best.
Yeah.
These directors, they'll take movies that the movies they want to take, you know, it's a weird kind of speculation that I'm like, you know, maybe Eric and Shawshank can explain to me, because I'm like, we have zero control over it, and almost I mean, it'd be more interesting to wager on what he'll do instead of like, and even the people are telling us, oh, you should do the small movies. Why don't you go make a small movie? If you're so interested in seeing a small movie, make a Nolan-esque small movie. That is not what I'm saying to Eric and Shawshank. You know, but you know, it's like the editorializing, and it's like, then go make that movie. If you think, you know, it's like, oh, I wish this director would make this movie. It's like, go make it. You know what? That director will make the movie they want to make. Or if they're getting desperate, the movie that they could get hired to make. You know, if there's a movie you want to see, write the script, just make it. Even if it's feature. Even if it ends up being absolute shit because you have no money. Make the movie. You know, you'll get way more satisfaction than fantasy footballing it. Unless we could figure out a way to make a fantasy football that's really fantasy movie. It'll be this, directed by this, acted with this.
Yeah.
You know, but it might have
those are long lens. I mean, that takes a long time to develop. Not a bad idea, though.
Not really. It might have something there. All right, everyone. Before I think we're kind of. I think we're reaching our end point. We're going to wrap it up soon. But this is usually the time where what do we do, Jim? We talk about what we're watching next. So let me put the focus on you. Give me a second here. What are we going to be looking at next?
All right. We are going to Greenland with the movie Journey to Greenland. Sorry. There it is.
Tell us a bit about it.
It's French. I did zero. I did zero research on this so far, but
you know what
I can tell you that Nuuk is the capital of Greenland.
Well, thank you.
And it was also on the map in the Midnight Sky.
Well, you know what? Actually, and here's the announcement on top of that, you guys. We're going to have another guest host for that. Specifically, is our good friend of the show, fellow chatter, member of the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars, Ms. Katie Fowler. And she'll be joining us, co-hosting. She is the one who actually suggested this film. And it's going to be the second part of our travel theme. You know what? Jim and I and Katie have been chatting about this. She is you know what? She's a professional. She's got specific expertise in this area as a tourism professional. And she's going to, we can't travel literally. So how can we travel figuratively? And what does that mean? And how do we remember travel and all this other stuff that I'm sure we'll get into next week? So, you know what? Yeah, Katie, thank you so much for bringing this up. And thanks for being willing to join us on the show. So, of course, that'll be next week, Sunday, 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Universal Coordinated Time -6. All right. With that, let's maybe just yeah, you know what, Jim? Why don't you let's see. We got a couple of other folks, a couple other comments in the chat. Wouldn't mind, Katie. The Amalfi Coast was especially stunning. Yes, it was.
It looked great. When I said throwaway shots of the Amalfi Coast, I mean, whether or not it needed to be there is another thing. But yeah, it looked, it made me want to go. I mean, that's there.
Okay, they're going back and forth on that. Let them. Okay, people have given some love to Ahmed, which is always nice to see. Oh, Eric wouldn't mind seeing another prestige type Nolan movie. I read it as wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the willingness to self-edit. All right. I think if it's Nolan, people will see it. Yes. All right. Okay, Shashank, going back to production values. Love the production values in this film. Reminded me a lot of the Mission Impossible and Michael Mann films more than the James Bond films. As far as production goes, you know, I was actually, I do. There's a Michael Mann vibe, eh? You know, like a style. Like it had style. That said, actually, I don't have it that said.
It just reminded me there was a great line when protagonist is telling Pattinson what he needs. He goes, we're going to need a car that's really fast but doesn't look fast. We're going to need 4 SUVs, a fire truck, a delivery thing.
Or not even SUVs, just 4 trucks.
Yeah. 4 trucks.
One of them has to be a fire truck.
And Pattinson writes nothing down. He's just...
As they're riding the bus.
Yes.
I gotta admit, it's kind of awesome as they're on public transportation. Like, they're on public transportation more than once. Like, which is kind of awesome.
And a lot of public conversations about things they shouldn't be doing. And I don't know if you caught it there, but during the
who actually listens in? They're all doing their own thing.
Yeah. During the I think it was the Gold Bar heist, one of the guards is overtaken by chloroform, which is
and like in an instant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the community fans out there, there's a great chloroform sequence about season 3, I think. But,
all right, Eric Thorpe. I mean, I just want Nolan to make a Bond movie for real already. That's awesome. All right. Okay. Shashank would be up for it. Shashank. Awesome. Looking forward to it. Oh, maybe for the next week's show. Yeah.
Right after.
Okay. Oh, look at this. Eric did his first video on his channel for most the movies he anticipates the most for 2021. Eric, tell me one thing. Is Dune on the list? Not where necessarily, but is it on the list? That's what I'm wondering about. But I will. You know what, Eric, I will, let's see. How can I... Well, you know what? I'll figure it out. I will I will add it to the pinned comment, or I'll put it in the description. You know what? We'll throw some love for you. And there we go. This is what I wanted to hear. Yeah. Dune is on the list. I couldn't believe I saw a much bigger YouTuber than us, and he had a 15 most anticipated movies in 2021. And like, well, there's got to be Dune on it somewhere. Not a one. I'm like, really? What the? It's like I never knew you. All right, folks. You know what, folks? It's time. You're very welcome. Hey, we're all just helping each other out here, brother. Thank you very much for coming out tonight and bringing your A game. Much like, yes, it's great when people are bringing, well thought out. Like, you can be passionate about your opinion, but if you're being polite about it, and you've got something to back it up, it makes the whole show great. You know what? And you're playing nice with the other kids. You're having your own adventures. This is all awesome. All right. All right. So, Jim, why don't you let us know before we? Why don't you let us know? Is this film worth anyone's time? What do you think?
Well, I mean, speaking for me, and it's always a hard thing for me to say because I know there's different people in my own family say that would like it and others that didn't. For me, it was well worth my time. Fun. It's actually, I expected something heavy, like in form and metaphor and everything else. I expected something sort of slow moving and heavy, and it certainly isn't that. It's a movie lovers, I think, movie. The kind of things like we've discussed before, why we go to cinema. Or why we go to movies.
Yes.
We watch them. And it's got a lot of those elements, that fun kind of element, that sense of novelty. Is it perfect? No. Could I have doctored the script a little better? Probably. But
at least get rid of some of those clunkers.
Is it fate or free will? Speaking of chloroform. But I mean, so it's not faultless, but it's a lot lighter on its feet than I think the critics would have you. The others would have you believe. People that didn't like it would have you believe. And it's kind of a fun watch. It goes by fairly quick for a 2.5-hour movie. So
yeah,
well, and it's cheaper on PlayStation than it is on Amazon Prime, by the way.
Good to know for all those folks. Thanks, Jim. All right, for myself here, I'm just going to change locations with you. First of all, it's getting some love from Shashank there, Jim. All right, Shashank does say to both of us, this has been a great stream, Rob and Jim. Might just top the Fat Men and Defy Bloods live stream to be my favorite of you guys. Well, thank you very much, Shashank. That's very kind of you. And you know what? We'll get more into it later. But yeah, this is you guys help make the show what it is, and we're so glad you guys are coming and you're enjoying yourself. Now, quickly, my take on this film. Yeah, definitely worth your time. And yeah, I think, Jim, maybe the first time I've ever said worth multiple viewings. View it twice. It's definitely worth viewing it twice. And if you've seen it twice, but you got caught up in the puzzle solving, see it a third time. Don't worry about the puzzles. Yeah. Just let the puzzle parts, don't get too caught up in trying to calculate it out and just roll with it. And yeah, I do. I think, and it's funny, Jim, would you agree with me? Every now and then, a Nolan, like whether it comes up in the queue, like I saw The Prestige again recently, they do reward multiple viewings. Like there's just, the Nolan films do kind of, like, or even maybe you know the film, you're not going to discover anything new about it, like the last time, but it's just such a good, it's such good storytelling. You're like, what the hell? I'll just enjoy it. I mean, there's, and when I say storytelling, I don't mean like some big character arc. Although I think The Prestige had more character development. Like even though they're both kind of tragic and one tragic figure, one semi-tragic figure. But yeah, it's just sometimes that's what you want, no class analysis or any of that stuff. It just But yes, I think it's worth your time. Worth your time twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. I mean, he's still obviously still jazzed about making movies. I don't think there's a sense of him being tired or anything. So
that's a great point. Yeah. Well, and maybe that, you know what, there was there's been some thinky pieces, and let me pull one up right now briefly. Okay. Share that. Let's get it up here for a second. Alrighty. Okay. So this will be a piece I'll put in the description, everybody. But hard to pardon why Tenet's muffled dialogue is a very modern problem. It's an interesting piece, everyone, not just because it is, not just because it talks about this film in particular and Nolan and some of his choices as a director, but also in general how a lot of films are, and not even necessarily intentionally, like not, we have to do it this way because this is what they want the audience to feel, but more that the industry is getting spoiled with being able to throw a ton of sounds at us all from a million directions. And that dialogue is getting kind of short shrift. So I definitely worth this Guardian piece I think is worth your time. So I will make sure it's pinned somewhere. Like a big thick list, Jim, of links to other stuff.
Books.
Yeah. All right. So we got that out of the way. I think, Jim, it's is it time to send you to the well, we got a couple more comments. Let's wrap this up. Somebody loved it, to be honest. Tenet, I think Shashank's talking about Tenet. Okay, Shashank does have a question. Question to both of you guys. Is it right to make I'm assuming you're saying, is it right to make dissections on films of this nature without watching it a second time?
I mean, the model that we use is again, and we've probably talked about this before, so bear with me, but the whole idea is that we would go to a movie, grab a coffee or a beer afterwards and talk about it. And so that's sort of, the model that we're, just a simple go to a movie and then chat about it afterwards. So that doesn't really, there's no way to watch it a second time really to fit in there. So that's sort of what we're going with. But I think some people do. Critics often see things a couple of times. They'll see them at a festival and then they'll see them prior to the release. Professional. But
sometimes that's just because they might have you see the festival cut.
Yes.
And then, you know what, Shashank? I think I'm going to say no, but a qualified no. Or no, I'm going to say yes, but a qualified yes. It is right to. You go see a movie, and this is like when I say go see it again, or let go of some things. Like when I first, this is the first time I have where I've seen it twice, for our show, but it's certainly nothing I'm going to make a habit of. And my feeling on some of the key elements that I still love about this movie, especially Debicki's, her part in the story, the friendship between the protagonist and Pattinson's, the character's name I can't remember, that got me in the feels. That I saw the first go. What Jim and I have found, is sometimes we watch it and kind of like, I suspect pretty soon, shout out to Vlad, I'm going to watch Midnight Sky again, in part because there's been all this talk, conversation, other opinions where I'm like, I should take another look at it. So yeah, but I think it is, you can dissect it. You should be able to dissect it. I mean, you pay good money to watch a movie, and even if it's on a streaming service, and I did my thing, and yeah, I think you got every right to. You get maybe a deeper appreciation. You could dissect it better if you watch it twice.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Jim? Does that jive with you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I think I've talked before about having the Sixth Sense spoiled for me and going to see it afterwards, and even knowing the twist, it sort of gave me a different appreciation for the movie. So, if you know all the surprises, if you can focus in on other things, or again, let it wash over you. I mean, that's a couple of the approaches. There's different ways of watching, right? There's active and passive, and you're looking for different things. Yeah.
Here, I do want to, before we move forward, I do want to, I'm going to bring him up on the chat, and I will pin it. I want a brief shout out for Jaron Talks Movies. He helped us out and helped make sure that this film really happened. And I just, a great. Another great YouTuber and somebody I just wanted to give a shout out to. I might have perhaps won a contest that gave me a digital copy of this film, perhaps. So anyway, I wanted to shout him out, Jared, and it was part of his. Hey, I reached this milestone, this monetization milestone, or 1,000 subscribers milestone. I want to do a contest to give back. So, Jaron, thanks very much. You made more than one person very happy on the day. Hey, kids, another reason why you enter contests. All right. We've got a couple more comments in the chat, Jim. First of all, Shashank suggesting another couple of movies. Love for us to check out And Had Done. You want to give it a shot, Jim? And Had Hoon. And Rach Sasan. And let me know what you thought of it. Well, Shashank, you know what? I think we need to do another collaboration with our friend in Chennai.
Oh, yeah.
Our man in Chennai. So maybe we talk about that, all right? Okay. Katie has already gone over. I totally agree with that intro to the Guardian piece. And I will read it for everyone just in case they missed it. Hard to pardon why Tenet's muffled dialogue is a very modern problem. Christopher Nolan's latest blockbuster is already infamous for its barely audible exchanges. As sound technology advances, why are films getting harder to hear? All right. Okay, Shashank, awesome. This is a wonderful stream. Appreciate this every week. It's been wonderful, and it's been wonderful that you keep making it in, Shashank. Thank you so much. Huge appreciation for Jaron. Yep, did a solid there. And then, Shashank says Jim's pronunciation is spot on. There we go, Mr. Chloboyko. All right, everybody. You know what? Let's first, again, Shashank, thank you so much for making it out. Katie, thanks for making it out. Thanks for always bringing your pithy A game and those research skills. Yes. You are the 50% of the Balmoral Street research irregulars. All right. I don't know if Mr. Thorpe is still here, but thanks for making it, man. That's super cool. And thanks for, and yes, I will make sure that link is, somewhere. It'll be somewhere. Good. Okay. But Eric, thanks for coming. Thanks for contributing. Vlad, thank you, Vlad65. Oh, I'm about to belch a little. Thanks for making it out. The Upside Down, thank you very much. Sean, Lost in the Reel, thank you. Jim, help me out. Am I missing it? Oh, Jelly Duck.
The Jelly Duck, yeah.
Ahmed.
You know what's funny is that just prior to like at 9:29, I looked. It said one person waiting, and then and then as soon as you guys are all super like timely, and then as soon as we start up, there's like 10 people in the queue or whatever, and it's like whoa,
which is awesome.
Very, very punctual as well. So thank you for that.
Well, internet helps with that.
Yeah.
Richard L., the other half of the Balmoral Street
right.
Researcher regulars, thanks so much for making it. Again, appreciate you guys spending your Sunday evenings with us. I think I caught everyone, Jim, that was active in the chat. Of course, there's always others that kind of pop in, check it out for a bit, and then move on to the regular scheduled programming. And we appreciate you, but you know what? Hard to say hi when we don't have a name, but we do appreciate you.
Yes.
Alrighty, Jim, is there anything else other
Happy
than
New Year,
maybe?
everyone. Be safe, be well.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna one more. Okay, let's just make sure we're not missing any late chats. Okay, Eric saying, "Have a great night." Great, excellent. Shashank also, have a great night. Eric will check out your. He's gonna Shashank. Eric. Shashank will check out your video the second I link it. All right, guys. Again, thank you all very much. I'm going to send, okay, Jim, I'll see you in the green room. Good night, but for everyone, good night, Jim. Jim, say good night.
Good night, everyone.
All righty, everybody. Again, as I said, we're on again next week. Journey to Greenland. Netflix in a lot of areas. Also on Amazon Prime. I believe you can get it on Google Play Movies. But yes, Journey to Greenland, French film, and we'll see you. So we'll see you back here at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Universal Time Code offset -6, and I think is that about it. I think so. I think we're pretty much done here. I've been in your arms. Yeah, are we done? I think we're done. I think I need a tail slate.